Merry Christmas everyone. I wanted to send season's greetings and a Causeway Living Christmas present. A reading from my upcoming book, Small Steps to Giant Living. This is going to come from chapter 3, which is titled Steps to Adventure. Hope you enjoy and have an amazing Christmas. Turning a bend in the wide and winding river, the sanctuary finally came into view. It was beautiful. Authentically exotic wooden structures sat by the edge of the water. We pulled up to them and I saw my bag being lifted off one of the other boats. Seeing this and my own 2 feet on dry land, any remaining anxiety about the travels had been lifted. This was it for the next 17 days. Sitting down to our first amazing meal there, I felt like I was in exactly the right place, at exactly the right time, with exactly the right people. Quite at odds to the majority of my life until that point, feeling very out of place. The food at the sanctuary was simple, but excellent quality, and stayed strictly within the guidelines of La Dieta. My attempts at sticking to this dietary regimen in the weeks before arriving were less impressive. I steamed simple vegetables and ate grilled chicken or fish, supplementing this with juices that I continued having since the 60 days of my fast. My diet was so bland and basic over the 6 months before Peru that the food here felt like a big upgrade. I struggled to empathise at the dinner table when conversation turned to food that most others had missed during their dieta. Another point of conversation during dinner was tomorrow's medicine ceremony. One of the most distinguishing characteristics of the plant medicines that we were about to work with is the strong psychoactive effect that many of them had, particularly one named ayahuasca. A foul-tasting brew made mainly from the Banisteriopsis caapi vine and Psychotria viridis leaves. Other plants are often added, depending on the shaman brewing the medicine. It remains a mystery how the local tribes figured out this mixture created a strong psychoactive medicine, but the science is fascinating. Under the microscope of Western science, it is now known that the leaves in the mixture are rich in a psychoactive chemical substance called dimethyltryptamine. Often referred to as DMT, this chemical is found in a wide variety of plants and also created endogenously by many animals, including humans. Drinking something containing DMT would normally have no effect, as it cannot be absorbed through the gut. However, the vine that the leaves are mixed with is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which means the DMT can be absorbed through the gut and affect the brain. We had a hand in creating our own medicine on the first evening. This would be ready in time for the 3rd ceremony of our stay. In preparation for brewing, we smashed up the ayahuasca vine with hammers and tore up what are known as chacruna leaves in the local Quechuan language. When Don Howard was asked how the indigenous people had figured out this process, he gave a cryptic answer. He said it was the plants who had told the tribe's ancestors how to do it. Don Howard's explanation didn't make any sense to me at the time, but it would by the following night. It felt safe here. Good food, great people, amazing energy. I could scarcely believe how at home I felt straight away in my little 1-person room. The room had little more than a bed, a bathroom, a table and a chair. Sat on the small table was a copy of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. My trainer, Sue, had recommended this book to me years ago. It had opened my eyes to spirituality in a more conscious way than any time in my life before reading it. I asked others and nobody else had this book in their room. It felt like another meaningful coincidence, telling me that I was on the right path. I was hugely grateful for my first night's sleep in the jungle, after getting only 5 or 6 hours sleep in close to 3 days by this point. The rooms at Spirit Quest have screened windows to keep the bugs out but allow air and the noise of the jungle in. The sound was extremely soothing. I felt more connected to nature than in the silent bedroom I would sleep in back home. I knew that I would need this night's rest in preparation for tomorrow evening, our first ayahuasca ceremony. I passed out as soon as my head hit the pillow and awoke the next morning in time for breakfast. Preparation. It was my first morning in what felt like a simple jungle paradise, away from computers, my design work, the things at home that reminded me of a time when I was ill. I was in a whole new world. If I thought dinner was good when we arrived, then the breakfasts were something else. Fresh jungle fruits that I've never even heard of, let alone seen. To this day, I'm yet to have found custard apples that taste quite the same. Before the ayahuasca ceremony that evening, we would first have a mapacho ceremony during the day and add to the medicine brew as final preparation. In South American shamanism, a potent variety of tobacco named Nicotiana rustica is cut and rolled into mapacho cigarros for use in ceremony. They are smoked but not inhaled into the lungs. Instead, the smoke is blown onto or at something or even at someone with a specific intention. The belief is that the mapacho smoke acts as a bridge between the intention and reality. During our second day, we got to practice this ourselves. Using the mapacho, we put our intentions into the medicine that was brewing with the vines and the leaves that we had smashed and torn up the night before. In charge of the ayahuasca and mapacho ceremonies at Spirit Quest were a family of curanderos, local medicine people. Don Robert, his wife, Doña Eliana, and their son, Don Carlos. They allowed us to add more than our intentions to the medicine, adding some extra ingredients as well. I added a flower called bobansana to the bubbling black cauldron. This ingredient is believed to be heart-opening and would also be used in its own special brew for a specific bobansana ceremony held later in my time at the sanctuary. It was a reminder to open my heart for the evening's experience. I spent more time with Nicholas before the big event that evening, visiting the maloca in which the ceremony was due to be held. This was a circular wooden hut with a highly vaulted ceiling. It was screened in like the rooms, keeping the mosquitoes out but the jungle ambience in. The level of detail I'm able to recount in this part of the book is largely thanks to Nicholas. He recommended that I write a journal entry about each day and each ceremony. He said it would help integrate the lessons that I would take from the medicine. The journaling was deeply impactful and something I continue to practice. Ceremony. Our ayahuasca ceremonies took place in the evenings. On the days of ceremony, we would forego dinner, fasting in preparation. I was grateful for that on the night of the first ceremony. I still felt underslept from my travels and in need of a nap by late afternoon. After awaking in the early evening, I showered and dressed in the white shorts and t-shirt that had been recommended. I lifted my 2 white IKEA blankets that I still have to this day and went to the maloca. The other participants and I lined soft mats around the inside edge of the circular building, ready to begin. The evening began with an arcana. This was an individual blessing for protection. It involved the shaman going to each person around the circle and singing a short medicine song called an Icaro over the participant who sat cross-legged on their mat. While singing, the shaman also repetitively tapped the person on the head with a percussive bundle of leaves called a chacapa. The shaman drew a cross over each person's heart using a finger dipped in agua de florida, a floral-smelling liquid. Mapacho smoke was then blown onto the crown of the head to seal the deal. Before even drinking the medicine, this was already one of the most surreal experiences of my life. After the arcanas had been performed, individuals would be beckoned forward one by one from around the room to the altar that the shamans were positioned behind. Each person took their moment to kneel before the altar and set a clear intention for the ceremony. Then, after locking eyes with Don Robert, he would decide how much of the medicine to pour into your cup. After drinking what was given to you, it was time to return to your mat and stay with your intention. Ayahuasca is renowned for its terrible taste. The only way I could describe it was like fire and dirt. Despite the temptation to, we were recommended not to drink too much water after consuming the medicine. Any fluids were likely to come back up at some point that evening. Each individual had their own large plastic bowl to vomit in if required. Another effect of the medicine is what often gets called the purge. Basically, throwing up. If you're really unlucky, purging from the other end. It is a big part of the process, and just one of the reasons that nobody drinks ayahuasca for fun. I was feeling great as I approached the altar, despite the prospect of throwing up, or worse. If what I had been told about this experience was true, I may be confronted by revelations about my most authentic self and visions from the medicine. I felt at peace with this. Several others remarked to me the next day how reassuring it was to see my smile by the candlelight about to drink the brew. They said that my confidence had helped with their nerves, but little did they know it was mostly naivety. That, plus excitement at the prospect of healing, and knowing that I was exactly where I needed to be. After barely keeping down the medicine, I nodded my thanks to the shamans and returned to the mat, where I had a few trinkets left from home. A leather bracelet that my friend James had given me for luck, but didn't want to wear on my wrist. I also had a stone from the beach in Bangor and one from the forest, a physical connection to home. I wrapped myself up in the white blankets and stayed with my intention to lock in the physical healing that I had experienced in the 6 months before that night. Despite all of these steps, nothing could have prepared me for what was to come next. I hope that didn't leave you on too much of a cliffhanger, but hopefully only a few months to wait until the actual book is released. Unfortunately, it's not available for pre-order yet, but if you want to be the first to find out when it is, make sure that you stay posted to Causeway Living social media channels or sign up to the newsletter on causewayliving.com. Once again, have an amazing Christmas and stay posted. I'll speak to you soon. Peace out.